"You don't have to fear me," the human said softly, though the chains between them rattled like distant thunder. "I came here to help you." Princess froze. She had been raised to believe humans were dangerous, brutal creatures from the outer stars. Yet this one, a tall soldier named Rowan, knelt before her as though she were the one with power. A thin beam of cold light slipped through the high windows of the ceremonial hall. Outside, the bells tolled, a slow, echoing warning. Marriage at dawn, binding vows by sunrise. Had only hours before she would be sent to a world she had never seen, beside a man she had never met. But now, chained before her, was a mystery she could not unravel. Why was a human locked inside her own castle? Why did his voice sound more protective than threatening? And why, when the halls trembled with a distant roar, did he look toward the shadows as if expecting something far worse than fate? Stepped closer. "Why would you help me? You're the one in chains." Rowan lifted his eyes, blue like distant worlds. "Because someone is coming, and they don't care about your marriage or your kingdom." A chill swept through her skin. Beyond the windows, a horn blared low, sharp, trembling. It wasn't one of theirs. She knew every horn tone in the palace. This one vibrated like the air was warning itself. The time-limited threat the council had whispered about for months was no longer distant. It was here. Leaned in, whispering, "Tell me what you know, quickly." Rowan's voice dropped to a hushed urgency. "Your marriage was meant to form an alliance, but someone wants it broken. They staged my capture to make you fear my people. And when the sun rises, they intend to strike, not against me but against you." The floor trembled again. Dust drifted from the rafters. His heart hammered. She had lived her entire life inside protected walls, surrounded by ceremony and expectation. But nothing in her lessons prepared her for this, a stranger warning her of danger she could not see. The torches flickered, metal clanged in the courtyard. Voices shouted, too chaotic to be royal guards. His breath caught. "You're saying the enemy is already inside." Rowan nodded. "Let me out, princess. I can get you out of here before dawn. If you stay, you won't live to see the ceremony." A crack split the silence, wood splintering somewhere deep inside the castle. Her hands shook. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind. Do not trust the human. Do not believe his softness. But the sound of fear in the guards, voices outside, was real. The danger was real. And Rowan's calm presence, unexpectedly steady, felt like the only lifeline in a collapsing world. Another horn blast shook the hall, closer now. Lifted her trembling fingers to the lock on Rowan's chains. Before she touched it, Rowan whispered, "Someone you trust has betrayed you." Her blood ran cold. "Who?" she breathed. His answer came as the doors behind her creaked open, slow, heavy, final. A familiar voice said, "Step away from him." She turned, and what she saw made her heart fall like shattered glass. In that single heartbeat, she understood that the threat was not distant armies or unknown creatures, but a betrayal woven into the very walls she had trusted since childhood. Her pulse quickened as shadows lengthened around her, each second slipping away like sand. Dawn was approaching, and with it, the unraveling of everything she believed. The towering doors groaned wider, and Princess's breath faltered as she recognized the figure stepping into the ceremonial hall. "Queen!" Her mother's silhouette was sharp against the wavering torchlight, regal, composed, and carrying a calmness far too cold for someone walking into a crisis. The queen repeated, her voice a quiet command, "Step away from the human." Rowan shifted slightly but without rising. Despite the chains, he looked ready to shield if the need came. She sensed it, an instinctive, silent promise. Swallowed hard. "Mother, what's happening outside? Why are the guards shouting?" Queen's eyes barely flicked toward the trembling windows. "The kingdom is handling a minor disruption," she said smoothly. "Your only concern should be the ceremony. You must be ready before dawn." Rowan whispered, barely audible. Listen to her tone. She's hiding something. His pulse quickened. Something felt wrong, terribly, unmistakably wrong. The queen lifted a gloved hand, and several armored attendants stepped into the hall, their faces hidden behind dark veils. They were not palace guards. Their armor bore no sigils. Their movements were too synchronized, too silent. Mother whispered, taking a step back, "Who are they?" A long pause. Then, "They are here to ensure your cooperation." The air thinned. Every instinct inside screamed with warning. Rowan's chains rattled sharply as he leaned forward. "Don't stay near them. They aren't here for your protection." One of the veiled attendants reached for her wrist. Jerked away. "Stop, I deserve to know the truth." Queen's expression didn't change, but her voice cooled into a tone had never heard from her before, a tone without softness, without hesitation. "The alliance marriage must not fail. You are the key to peace. Your fear is an inconvenience we can no longer indulge." A low rumble rolled beneath the floor. A distant crash echoed through the hall, another door breaking, another barrier falling. Rowan raised his voice, urgent now. "She's forcing the marriage because the threat outside isn't an enemy, it's an uprising. Someone discovered a secret, something dangerous about your mother's rule." "Silence," the queen snapped. But Rowan didn't stop. "She's not afraid of humans. She's afraid you'll learn what she's been hiding." Turned back to her mother, trembling. "Is that true?" Queen stepped closer. "Your imagination is clouded by fear. You must trust me." Yet her eyes did not hold the warmth once depended on. Instead, they held something else, an urgency that felt like desperation. The veiled attendants moved to encircle. Rowan's voice cut through the tension. "Run!" Her heart jumped. For the first time in her life, she questioned the one person she had always trusted without hesitation. "Mother," she whispered shakily, "why would you need strangers to force me if this was truly for peace?" The queen inhaled slowly. "Everything I've done is to protect our kingdom. Some truths would destroy you. Now, please, do not make this difficult." But stepped back toward Rowan. Queen's jaw tightened. "So you would trust a human prisoner over your own blood?" A thunderous boom shook the hall, this time so strong the torches nearly fell from their brackets. The stained glass windows on the left trembled violently. A voice shouted from outside, urgent and terrified. "They've breached the eastern gate. Protect the princess." The queen flinched, only for a heartbeat but enough for to see it. She was afraid. Not of Rowan. Not of humans. But of whatever was coming through the gates. His breath quivered. "Mother, what have you done?" Queen's lips pressed into a thin line. "You will understand in time." Rowan hissed under his breath. "She doesn't want you to understand. She wants you controlled." His legs trembled as the attendants closed in. Then, a sudden explosion of wind burst through the hall as one of the far windows shattered inward, glass raining like falling stars. A shadow landed lightly on the marble floor. Every head turned. Every breath stopped. Because the figure that stepped from the settling dust was not a soldier, not a guard, not an enemy. But someone had not seen in years. Someone she had believed was gone forever. Someone whose return changed everything. The dust settled slowly, like drifting ash. His breath caught in her throat as the figure rose from one knee, pushing aside shards of shattered glass. A familiar voice, soft, disbelieving, broke the silence. "It's really you." Her heart nearly stopped. She whispered. Her older brother, Prince, who had vanished 3 years ago under the claim of a tragic accident. A kingdom had mourned him. A monument was carved in his honor. Had wept herself empty, believing she would never hear his voice again. Yet here he stood, alive. Rowan exhaled sharply beside her. So the rumors were true. Queen stepped forward quickly, composure cracking. "You should not have come." His eyes dark, steady, and filled with a restrained storm, locked on hers. "Mother, you told them I was dead." A hush swept the hall. His weakened. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you ever?" Queen lifted her chin. "To protect this kingdom." shook his head slowly, stepping closer too, though guards closed in like shadows. No, you used that excuse to hide the truth, the same truth you're trying to bury now. Another tremor shook the castle, as if the world itself agreed. The veiled attendants tightened their circle. Rowan shifted subtly, preparing to spring if they moved even an inch closer to. His gaze swept over the chains binding Rowan. You captured a human envoy and staged it as a threat, didn't you? Queen's voice turned icy. You do not understand the burden of a crown. Pointed to the broken window. No, mother. What I understand is that the people outside aren't invaders. They're our own citizens. They're rising because they discovered you have been hiding more than my disappearance. His pulse hammered. Mother, what is he talking about? The Queen's silence said everything. A storm of voices erupted from the courtyard, shouts, commands, hurried footsteps. Something heavy crashed against the outer wall, making the marble beneath them shudder. Rowan whispered urgently, if we don't move now, the entire palace will be taken. But could barely breathe. Her brother alive. Her mother hiding it. A kingdom rebelling. A human envoy in chains, who showed more honesty in moments than her own blood had in years. Forced herself to speak. Mother, why didn't you tell me lived? Queen's eyes glistened, not with sorrow but with a fierce determination. Because you were not ready. Because the truth would have destroyed your innocence and endangered the throne. Took a step toward her. You're endangering her now. Look at what you've done, mother. You would force her into a marriage she fears, surrounded by strangers, with threats in the walls and lies in every room. The Queen's expression darkened, but she stayed silent. A sharp clang echoed as another gate failed. Rowan leaned forward. Princess, choose now. Stay and be controlled or leave and survive. The veiled attendants moved to seize her. Stepped between them and in a blur, drawing a slim blade from his belt. Touch her, he warned, and you'll regret it. For the first time, the attendants hesitated. Queen extended a trembling hand. Come to me, please. Stared at her mother, really stared. At the distant eyes. At the walls of silence that had grown between them. At the secrets she had been. Her voice shook, but it was steady enough. Why should I, when you have trusted me with nothing? The Queen's lips parted, but before she could respond, a deafening boom ripped through the far door. Splinters exploded outward. A group of armored rebels stormed into the hall, shouting her name. Protect the princess. She's the rightful hope of the kingdom. Chaos erupted. Grabbed his wrist. Come, we have seconds. Rowan broke his chains against the crumbling pillar with a sharp crack and rose beside them. I'll get you both out, he said, eyes blazing with purpose. Stay close. Looked once more at her mother, standing frozen amid collapsing lies. Then she turned away and ran toward the unknown, toward danger, toward truth. With Rowan and at her side. Marble dust rolled through the air as the rebels surged into the ceremonial hall. Their armor, patched with worn metal and cloth, clattered with each step, a desperate rhythm rising over the thunder of collapsing structures. Kept close, Rowan just behind her, moving with the alert focus of someone who had navigated danger far too often. This way, shouted, guiding them toward a narrow passage behind a fallen tapestry. But as they reached the archway, the ground lurched, and a chandelier broke from its chain, shattering across the marble with an explosive crash. Sparks leapt like startled fireflies. Flinched, her ears rang. Without hesitation, Rowan pulled her protectively against his chest, shielding her from a rain of glittering shards. The warmth of his arm, the steadiness of his breath, even in chaos, momentarily silenced the world around her. You're safe, princess. I've got you, he murmured. Her heart trembled, not with fear this time, but with something startlingly close to trust. Glanced back, relief flickering across his features. We must move. That blast weakened the west supports. Nodded, pulling herself together. The urgency pulsed through her veins. They darted into the narrow corridor, lit only by flickering emergency crystals, its walls vibrating with distant impacts. Shadows leapt across the stone like fleeing spirits. "Where are we going?" asked breathlessly. Answered without slowing. "To the old passage beneath the gardens. Only a handful of us ever knew it existed." Rowan frowned. "You're leading her underground while the palace is collapsing." Shot him a sharp look. "It's the safest route out. The upper halls are crowded with guards loyal to my mother." Rowan's jaw tightened, but he nodded, accepting plan. Studied their faces as they ran, Rowan's fierce resolve, his haunted determination. Two men from different worlds forced together by truth. A world she had been shielded from all her life. A world she now ran through barefoot. The corridor sloped downward. Water dripped rhythmically from overhead pipes like a slow, steady countdown. Each drop pressed into her nerves. Something was closing in. Something neither brother nor human wanted to name yet. At the bottom of the stairs, pressed his hand against an unmarked stone. A soft click echoed, and a hidden door slid open, revealing a spiral stairway descending into darkness. Rowan hesitated before the threshold. "Are you sure you want to trust a path your mother tried to bury?" Stiffened. "She didn't bury this. I hid it before she declared me dead." Looked between them, then steadied her breath. "I trust both of you," she said softly. Rowan blinked, surprised. "And you barely know me." "You've protected me from the moment we met," she said, "not with promises but with actions." Something unspoken warmed the air between them. Cleared his throat, disguising emotion with urgency. "We need to move before the rebels or guards find this entrance." They hurried down the spiral steps, the sound of distant alarms fading behind them. The temperature dropped, the air thick with the scent of earth and old secrets. At the bottom, the passage opened into a low tunnel lit by faint blue moss. It pulsed like a living heartbeat beneath the castle. Rowan brushed his hand along the walls. "This is ancient, older than your palace." Nodded. "It's from before our dynasty. I found it by accident as a child." Stepped forward, the moss glow reflecting in her eyes. "And mother knew." Silence was answer enough. They continued deeper until the tunnel branched. A low rumble rolled through the earth. Rowan froze, lifting a hand for silence. "Someone else is down here." His breath hitched. "Guards?" "No," Rowan said quietly. "Their steps are too silent for guards." A faint metallic scraping echoed through the tunnel, slow, deliberate. Tightened his grip on his blade. "Whoever it is, they're blocking the exit." Felt the air grow colder. The rebellion above was only half the threat. Someone else had been waiting in the dark, someone who knew exactly where she'd run. Rowan stepped in front of her, lowering his voice to a promise. "Stay behind me, princess. Whoever waits ahead, they're coming for you." The scraping sound grew louder, metal slowly dragging across stone, steady enough to echo like a warning pulse through the narrow tunnel. Fingertips chilled. She pressed closer to Rowan, who shifted protectively in front of her, his posture sharp with focus. Raised a hand, motioning for silence. "Whoever is ahead, they're waiting for us to move first." Rowan nodded. "And they're not afraid. That's the part that worries me." Swallowed. "Is it one of Mother's guards?" Shook his head. "No, guards walk heavy. This is something trained to disappear." A faint breath of air brushed through the tunnel, as if something exhaled in the darkness. Then, a voice drifted from ahead, quiet, almost gentle. "Princess, you've caused quite a commotion tonight." Froze. She knew that voice. Her heart slammed against her ribs as a figure stepped into the blue glow of the moss. Clad in darkened armor, hood drawn back, stood Captain Saren, her mother's most trusted knight. The man who had taught her to ride. The man who used to laugh when she fell from the training dais. The man she once trusted without question. But the warmth she remembered was gone. His eyes were cold steel. Growled. "Saren, you were supposed to protect her." Saren's gaze flicked toward him, unbothered. "I am protecting her, from rebellion, from chaos, from truths she is not ready to carry. Rowan stepped slightly forward, shielding without hesitation. She doesn't need protection from her own choices. Saren smirked almost sadly. And who are you to decide what she needs, human? Felt Rowan's muscles tense. She forced a step forward. Saren, you knew was alive, didn't you? A shadow of conflict flickered across the knight's face, but only for a heartbeat. Yes, and your mother asked me to keep that secret for the good of the realm. His voice was sharp. For the good of the throne, you mean? Saren didn't deny it. A tremor rolled beneath their feet, dust drifting from the ceiling. Above them, the palace groaned under the weight of battle. Saren lifted his blade, but not in a strike, more like a grim instruction. Princess, come with me peacefully. We will return you to safety. Your mother still hopes to finish the ceremony at dawn. His breath caught. She still thinks the marriage will hold the kingdom together. No, Saren said quietly, she thinks you will. The words hit her like a weight. She had always been the symbol, delicate, sheltered, hidden, a figure placed in a story written by others. But not tonight. Rowan stepped between her and Saren. She isn't going anywhere with you. Saren tilted his head. Step aside, envoy. This is not your world. Rowan's voice sharpened into steel. It became my world the moment they chained me inside it. The tunnel thrummed with tension. Touched Rowan's arm gently. He glanced back at her, and in his eyes she saw something steady, patient, waiting for her choice. She stepped forward, not behind either man but between them. Saren, she said softly, if you ever cared for me even a little, tell me the truth. What truly lies beyond this forced marriage? What is Mother hiding? Saren's jaw clenched. If I speak, I betray my oath, but if I stay silent, I betray you. A war raged behind his eyes. Another rumble shook the earth. A distant explosion echoed from above. Time was slipping through their fingers like falling sand. Finally, Saren exhaled, slow, pained. Your mother fears the rebellion because it's not a mere uprising. It's fueled by ancient knowledge. Knowledge that reveals your bloodline holds the only key to an artifact capable of changing our world forever. His heart stilled. Rowan's eyes narrowed. What artifact? Saren shook his head. I cannot say more, but if the rebels reach it first, the consequences will be irreversible. Looked at, fear tightening his grip on his blade. They want you because you unlock it. His breath trembled. Her whole life, every lesson, every restriction, every promise, suddenly tilted into a new and terrifying shape. Saren lifted his sword again. Princess, please, come with me. Let me keep you safe. Step back toward Rowan and... No, she whispered, not like this, not in chains, not in silence. Saren's expression tightened with sorrow. Then forgive me, he said quietly, for what must come next. He moved, silent as a shadow, sharp as a falling star. Straight toward. Rowan leapt forward, raised his blade, and the tunnel collapsed into chaos. The tunnel erupted into motion. Saren's blade sliced through the air with deadly precision, the blue glow of the moss streaking across its edge. Rowan lunged, intercepting the strike with a forearm braced in raw instinct. Metal scraped against metal as crossed his blade with Saren, sparks snapping in the tight space. Behind me, Rowan shouted. But she didn't retreat. Her heart pounded too loudly, her thoughts too sharp for fear alone. She watched Saren, her once trusted mentor, driven by a purpose she no longer understood. Stop, she cried, stepping forward. No one stopped. Every sound collided in a storm, steel clashing, boots grinding into dust, the tunnel groaning under the disruption. Small stones rained from the ceiling. His breath hitched. The underground passage wasn't built to withstand this kind of violence. Rowan shoved Saren backward, trying to drive him away from, but the knight moved with terrifying efficiency, reappearing behind Rowan in a blink, blade angled for a disabling blow. Intercepted again, their swords meeting with a crack that echoed down the corridor. Saren, enough, growled, teeth clenched. You're fighting the wrong enemy. Saren's voice was flat. My enemy is chaos, and anyone who fuels it. Stepped closer, trembling but resolute. You told me once that loyalty meant protecting the heart of the kingdom. I am that heart, and right now, you're breaking it. For a fleeting instant, Saren's face twisted, grief surfacing like a bruise. I am trying to keep you alive. Rowan caught the shift. Then stop attacking the people actually protecting her. Saren's blade lowered, but only slightly. You don't understand what you're protecting her from. A distant thud rolled through the tunnel, followed by a gust of stale air. The palace above trembled, shaking loose streams of dust. Steadied himself. We can't stay here. This tunnel won't last much longer. Rowan pulled gently behind him, his voice urgent. Saren, stand down or we all die when this place collapses. Instead of obeying, Saren took a slow step back into the shadows, blocking the only exit. Stomach dropped. She whispered, there's no other way out, is there? He shook his head grimly. No, this path leads straight to the gardens, and Saren knows it. Saren raised his blade, not in attack but in guardian stance. You must return to the queen. She can keep you safe from what's coming. Rowan muttered under his breath. Control is not safety. Stepped forward again, ignoring Rowan's urgent whisper to stay back. Saren, if you would risk everything for my life, then trust me with the truth. What is this artifact? Why does my blood matter? Saren's jaw clenched. It responds to your lineage, only yours. It chooses rulers. It reveals truth, and truth can ruin kingdoms. Her breath stilled. Mother fears I'll see something, murmured. Saren's silence confirmed it. His voice darkened. So she kept the artifact hidden, and when the people learned pieces of it existed, they rose. Saren nodded solemnly. And if they reach it first, they will crown whoever they wish, rewriting the balance of power forever. Another violent tremor ripped through the passage. A section of ceiling cracked, stones tumbling down like thunder. Rowan grabbed his arm. It's giving way. We need to move now. Saren stepped forward, blade raised. Choose, come with me or be lost to the chaos outside. Your kingdom needs you with the queen. Shook her head, tears burning her vision. No, my kingdom needs truth, and I will never find it if I'm dragged like a prisoner. The ceiling groaned, a warning. Rowan glanced at. We break past him, together. Nodded, gripping his blade. Faced Saren one last time. You once said my courage would shape the future. Let me prove you right. For the first time, Saren hesitated. Just long enough. A huge crack split the ceiling overhead. A roar of earth echoed through the tunnel. Rowan seized around the waist. Now. Charged. Rowan surged forward. Saren raised his blade. But the ceiling gave way before the strike landed. The tunnel collapsed into blinding dust and crushing stone. And scream vanished beneath the roar of falling earth. Silence. A crushing, suffocating silence settled over the collapsed tunnel. Dust drifted in slow spirals, shimmering faintly in the dim moss light that somehow still glowed beneath the debris. For several long heartbeats felt nothing, no breath, no ground, no time. Just weight, cold weight pressing against her shoulders and back. Then a voice broke through the haze. Stay with me. Rowan. Warm hands slid against her arms, brushing away bits of stone. His voice trembled, not in fear but in relief. She gasped sharply, air finally filling her lungs. Rowan, where? I'm here, coughed from somewhere nearby, bruised but alive. Blinked through the dust. The ceiling had collapsed in sections, but Rowan had shielded her with his body, taking the brunt of the falling debris. Had been thrown to the side, but the broken stones had formed a protective wedge around him. Only one figure was missing. Saren. His heart twisted painfully, but there was no time to search. The tunnel shuddered again, threatening a second collapse. Rowan steadied her. We need to get out before this entire passage buries us. Groaned, pushing himself upright. The garden exit, it's blocked, but there should be a vent passage to the left. Rowan and helped him to his feet, and together they moved through the broken remnants of the tunnel. Every step echoed with urgency. The air grew colder, the blue moss dimmer, as if the earth itself feared what lay ahead. After several tense minutes, they reached a narrow crack in the stone wall, a dented ventilation passage that sloped upward. Nodded to it. That leads outside. It will be tight. Rowan placed a hand on the edge. I'll go first, make sure it's stable. Follows, you come last. Shook her head. You've both risked yourselves for me. I can't ask for more. Rowan looked at her gently. You didn't ask, we chose. Smiled faintly. Besides, you've always been the heart worth fighting for. Emotion tightened her throat. For the first time in her life she felt seen, not as a symbol, not as a hostage to politics, but as someone whose choices mattered. They crawled upward through the narrow passage, guided by faint drafts of fresh air. After a long, claustrophobic climb, Rowan broke through a pair of old iron grates, and a rush of cool night air poured in like hope. He helped out first. The garden above was dimly lit by fire-touched skis. Smoke rose from the distant palace towers. Shouts echoed across the courtyard. Pulled himself through after them, wincing. The rebels are close. The Queen's guards are scattered. Everything is falling apart. Looked past the smoke, beyond the burning rooftops, toward the horizon where dawn was beginning to tint the sky gold. Dawn, the time she was supposed to be married. Dawn, the moment her fate was meant to be sealed by others. Not anymore. Rowan, she said softly, take me to this artifact. If my lineage truly holds the key, then I need to decide what kind of future it opens. Rowan studied her eyes, steady, brave, filled with quiet fire. Are you sure? Once we step onto that path, there's no returning to the life you knew. She lifted her chin. That life was never mine. This one will be. Placed a hand over hers. Then we go together. No more secrets, no more running. The sound of armored steps suddenly echoed in the garden. Figures emerged through the smoke, rebels shouting her name, guards rushing to capture her, chaos wrapped in confusion. Rowan tightened his grip on her hand. Your choice now. She looked at the approaching figures, at the flickering fires, at the world trembling under years of lies. Then she turned toward a narrow gate leading away from the palace, the path to the ancient ruins where the artifact slept, waiting. We run toward truth, she said, not away from it. Rowan smiled, a soft, proud smile. Then let's finish what your mother tried to bury. With guarding one side and Rowan holding her firmly on the other, sprinted into the uncertain dawn. Not as a frightened princess, not as a pawn in a political design, but as the one who would choose what her kingdom became next. And for the first time, hope ran with her.